Hey everybody, it's a Trout. Hope you're having a great day. Let me run this by you. You wake up one morning, you reach for your cell phone, and you see that it's blown up with a bunch of text messages. And you're concerned, you're thinking something's wrong. So you read one of the text messages from a friend of yours, and the message says, go to Joe Bonamassa's Instagram site. Yeah, that Joe Bonamassa. So you jump on Instagram, and you go and watch what Joe had posted. And there, to your surprise, is your band's brand new album that Joe was endorsing, saying it was a great find for him to listen to. That's what started the catapulting of the Cold Stares and the relationship with Joe and their fans that they now have all over the world. Chris Tapp, lead singer and one of the songwriters in the band, was kind enough to sit down and talk to me about the Cold Stares. Talk about their music, talk about how they got started, and how they formed a relationship with Joe and all the other great people they played with. So stay tuned to that and listen to Chris talk about that in this episode of The Trout Show. But before we get there, if you like this episode, give me a thumbs up. And please subscribe to my channel. It's much appreciated. So up next, the Cold Stares, a great rock band that's making their headway through not just America, but Europe. That's next on The Trout Show. How long the two of you, who was your partner in crime when you first started?
Yeah, it was Brian Mullins is the drummer, and that's who we were actually in a band before this one, and we're playing for a little bit, and that band kind of came to an end, and we both decided we were done. We weren't going to play anymore, and then we got coaxed into opening a show, playing a show with a friend of ours, and we ended up putting this together, the two-piece thing together. Out of that, but when we originally did that, the only thought process for not having a bass player and being a trio then was we were trying to retire. We were trying not to play anymore. So
Gotcha.
we thought if we had a bass player, it would be a legit band, and without a bass player, it wouldn't be a legit band. And
We're just pretending.
right. We learned the hard way that it's not always the case.
And where did you find the bass player? What's his name?
His name is Bryce Clee.
Okay.
He was a fan of the band. His brother used to come out and see us early on, so we've been playing together about 10 years. His brother came out to watch us as a duo and was bringing him out, and it worked out well with him. We had tried a couple other bass players along the way, and they were great individuals and great players, but it just didn't fit, and the timing wasn't right. And we knew Bryce, but we had played our second tour in Europe. The record label came out to see us, and they said, man, you guys are sounding amazing live, but we missed the guitar solos that you did on the record. And so Brian and I had that conversation. I said, man, maybe it's time to add a bass player so we can, we've always played the songs live just a little differently. And I said, maybe it's time that we try to do these a little closer to the record. And he said, well, we've tried that before. He was really against it. He thought we would lose the amount of uniqueness that we had as a duo compared to other bands if we became a trio. But we've been a duo for so long, and I just had gone as far as that train would go on the track. And I said, well, we should try Bryce. And we sat down and had lunch with Bryce when we came back from Europe. And we like I said, we'd known each other for 10 years, and I just knew he was the right guy.
Right.
He came into the first, we said, well, we'll get together and we'll have a rehearsal and just see how it goes, learn a couple songs. He came into the first rehearsal and he had memorized our entire catalog.
Wow.
So, it was a hard.
I don't know what you do when they do that. You're like, you're in.
Well, and
I know the chemistry part has to be there too. Sure, that's the big thing.
It is. It's a huge part of it. But you know what? If I really wanted a gig and I was going for it, I would memorize the catalog. So when you have expectations for yourself or for your company or your band or whatever else, when you bring somebody else in and you see they have that same work ethic, it definitely helps their cause, you know.
And then you started, and that just started last year?
Yeah, we did that. We brought him in December, so we were about to write the next record, and I really wanted to write it as
A trio?
thinking about a three-piece. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so we brought him in. He played one or two gigs with us on the road, and we went straight into the studio with him. And then after that, as soon as the record came out, we actually we toured the world with him at this point. But um, yeah, we threw him right to the wolves right away.
Do you record there in your hometown, or do you go to Nashville?
No, we've recorded all around the world. We've recorded in one of the records we did at East West Studios in Los Angeles.
I've
We
heard
did
of
a
it.
record
Yeah.
at we did some work at Blackbird in Nashville. We've recorded kind of everywhere around the country, um, just depending on who we're working with during that time period.
So whoever you working with as a producer and all that stuff at the time, and
Yeah, we both have studios. I have well, all three of us have a studio. I
uh,
have a fairly extensive studio at my house, and then Brian, our drummer, has a great studio at his house too. So we have the ability to do that. I'm old school. I just feel like you get in a different headset and a different it's a different work mode when you go into a physical studio and you're there to
yeah.
do a job. So I
Well, you're
usually we'll record in the studio as far as maybe live drums, bass, and guitar, and then
bring it
I may
home.
do some vocals, but I'll do a lot of the vocals here at my studio at home.
All the music that you've done, well, I'm asking, I guess. The question is, was it all original stuff when you were doing the duo?
Yeah, yeah, we've always played just our music.
And where did I think the thing I like about your music, I don't think I know, is you got a Western thing going on, but then you got this kind of hard edge rock stuff going on. I mean, I grew up with ZZ Top. Billy Gibbons is actually a little older than me, which makes me feel better because he's still rocking. Which you
Yeah.
kind of have that edge on there, but then you got this Western flair to it. Were you in? I know so you were talking about Western wear and all that stuff. That did that influence you as a kid, or how did you think that kind of influenced you, like movies, or what was the deal about that whole Western thing?
Well, Brian and I both, we're in Indiana now, but we both grew up in Kentucky. And
Ah, I wondered where
I
the
grew
accent
up,
comes from.
yeah, I grew up in Hanson, Kentucky. And then
Mm,
a lot of my family was from Dixon, Kentucky. My great aunt had a 650-acre farm in Dixon that I spent a lot of time on growing up. And, we were I was always just around a rural kind of environment growing up. But my
hmm.
grandfather, some of the earliest memories I have was watching westerns with my granddad, and I always was just a big fan of the genre western movies. And where we grew up is very similar to Texas in a lot of ways. Kentucky is. I think it's maybe Tennessee has some attributes that are similar to Texas too, but outside of the landscape, the people and the mentality
Hmm.
is very. I feel like they have a lot of things in common. And one of the things growing up where we were, there's a lot of bluegrass and a lot of country around us, but
Hmm.
I loved the aspect of that music, and I liked what they sang about, and I liked just the environment. I even liked the look, but I was a kid of the '90s, and we both grew up around hard rock and stuff.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it was always, I just don't think that you do anything well unless you do it honest. It doesn't matter if you're laying brick or if you're writing songs.
Correct.
You have to put yourself in it, and I don't feel like you can do that if you're playing a role of somebody else. So just naturally, I love the Southwest. I love Western stuff. But we grew up. Both of us had either older brothers or god brothers or people that we were around that were 10 or 20 years older than us
Mm.
that were listening when we were in high school. Grunge and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and that stuff was the
Seattle
thing.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but we were listening to Zeppelin and Hendrix and Cream. We've
Yeah.
always been old souls, and we've always listened to
Yeah.
stuff. I don't. I want to hear where it's coming from. I'm more of a straight whiskey guy than a Long Island tea. Let's get down to the core of it and let me hear where it's coming from. So.
When I'm cold at night, baby, won't you come for me? When I'm stranded on the side of the road, won't you come for me? When I'm breaking down and you can't be found, come for me. When I'm lonely and I'm needing some love, won't you come for me? When I'm feeling like I'm losing my mind, won't you come for me? 'Cause I'm a man of my word. If I promise you the world, only one thing I need, baby, please come for me.
Because your music has a real guts to it. And like you said a while ago, I drink straight up whiskey. I ain't drinking no Long Island tea.
Yeah.
So that tells you everything you need to know about your band right there. And I bet your attitude, and along with your bandmates, is if you don't like it, we don't care. We want you to like it, but this is us. This is what we do, right?
Yeah, I kind of feel like before this band, the band prior to this that Brian and I were in, it was during the grunge time, and we were really close to getting a record deal. We had done a showcase for some big labels, and we were right there,
Right.
and we didn't end up getting the deal, and that's when we were like, we were done. But part of the reason that we didn't get that deal was we weren't being real. I was writing things because we were so close to getting a record deal. And I thought, man, I gotta write what they want,
Yep.
And when we did this band, I was like, I told him, I don't care if anybody likes that. I only,
Yep.
I'm up there in my own world with my eyes closed. I'm hoping that everybody's enjoying it. You can feel the energy.
Sure.
But I'm up there doing my thing. And I just think, man, when I listen to somebody speak, it doesn't matter if they're talking about astronomy or if they're talking about riding bulls. It doesn't matter what it is. If they're passionate about it,
Mhm.
I don't even have to be interested in the subject.
Mhm.
The passion and the honesty will carry that through. And so I think that's very important. To your point about classic rock stuff, I can't tell you how many times we play a show and somebody over the age of 35, 40 will come up to us after the show and say, man, I am really thankful that you guys are out playing. He goes, I was thinking of a guy the other night. We played in Toledo the other night. The guy said, I've been listening to Spotify. I've been listening to the same music for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's all music from 60s and 70s.
Mhm.
And I can't find anybody that's playing that style of music. And I do agree with you, man. I've seen analytics that show that the majority of people listening to Spotify are listening to music that's, I think, 1985 and back. That's makes 75 or 80% of the catalog of people that are listening.
Yeah.
They're not listening to newer stuff. And, the media shoves all this crap down everybody's throat, and it's killed radio. It's killed so many things because they try to feed you things that you want. And I just, I feel a certain amount of responsibility as somebody that loves the music of everybody from Bob Dylan to Zeppelin and Muddy Waters and Robert Johnson. I feel a responsibility to carry that lineage forward and have, younger people hear that stuff and go, hey, where does that come from? Because that's what I did. I heard Clapton and I was like, everybody from Bob Marley to Robert Johnson, I found through Eric Clapton.
Eric Clapton.
Bonnie Raitt won that Grammy the other night, and all I saw in the news was how she was like it was, you know, it was like amazing that she won. I'm like, do you have any idea who she is? Like, they're all the talent in the whole damn show that they had. If they added it up, it wouldn't amount to one of her high heels.
No.
You know, it's like, come on, people. That people have the media and the people. A lot of this new wave of people have just, I don't even know what to call them, but man, they've just given up on the historical importance of these individuals that have brought music to where it is. And I'll tell you, that's another thing I like about Eric Clapton. And I'm not saying that he's not made mistakes, or, you know, we've all done things and said things that we wish we hadn't, but
Yeah.
he has a reverence as a gentleman for the people that he admires and the people that caused him to create the music. And I'm the same way. I don't want to hear somebody talking smack about anybody from Bonnie Raitt to Clapton to whoever. I have a reverence for those people.
So we're missing that rawness, and I think that's what's so great about you guys, is you got that rawness in it. And I hope that as this release comes, you get more exposure. There's obviously, as you've just got to saying about somebody coming up to you, there's people that want to hear it, but they don't get to hear it where we listen to it. You know, if you listen to radio, I don't listen to new stuff. I turn it on some classic rock, you know, and they'll play some every once in a while. Of course, classic rock is now 2000 or 1990s. I'm like, you know, so I think that's the other part of it. And you've been worldwide, you've done some things. So when you go to Europe, because I know you're going to Europe, you're going to be in some places over there. What do you see? And you've been there before. I know this is maybe sound like a stupid question, but what do you see from the response to because, you know, they get to see a lot of acts from America, but you're not like everybody else. What do they say to you? What do you hear when you go through performing? Is it the rawness? What do they like about you?
Well, first of all, in general, every place that we've been over there is just super appreciative for us coming over there, period. And
wow.
We always talk about the difference of places in the States versus overseas. Like in the States, the club owner's like, well, you guys are really lucky you're able to come in here and play my venue tonight. Over there, it's the opposite. We're very fortunate, to have you guys over here to play. Even in so that a lot of, I would say even 50% of the venues that we've played, and we've played 12 countries over there. The people that own the venue they'll make you a home cooked meal. You know, they welcome you into their venues and their homes in a much different way than they do in the States. Now, that's not to say there's not venues in the States that we don't love, and that take good care of us.
Sure.
Especially in places like Texas where we come, and we love that. But it's a very different mentality, and you know, we've had this discussion for a while because our foothold as a band really took off once we started going to Europe, and we do much better in Europe as far as ticket sales and album sales a lot of times. But in Europe, you don't compete with country, and I'm not talking about Hank Williams and Waylon. I'm talking about this new country, and you don't compete with rap. So neither one of those things are really prevalent. They
don't really exist over there.
Not in country.
They like country. I used to be in the UK. They liked older country.
They love it. Now they still do, especially when we're in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Scandinavian countries. They love rockabilly and they love early country. They love Willie Nelson. They love, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But you don't hear Florida Georgia Line. You don't hear any
the Chicks.
Any of that. You know, the journey with the banjo is basically what I call it. You just don't hear that over there. So it's more of an opportunity they just like blues and rock and roll, and they want to see people playing their instruments. They don't want to see people with computers, and so it's been great. And it's every place that we've been over there has been super kind to us. I've got no complaints about any single place that we've been over there. And like I said, we've been to basically every place except for like Czechoslovakia and Romania.
My mama left when I was 6 years old, and I've got nothing but the blues. My father said, son, you're on your own, and I've got nothing but the blues. You know they kicked me out of my high school, and I've got nothing but the blues. Lost all my money trying to shoot some pool, and I got nothing but the blues. And I'm fading, waiting around for someone to save me. And I'm fading, waiting around for someone to save me. Alright.
And we're touring, for the record, March, April. In May, we head to Europe for about a month, and we come home for a week or two, and then we go back to the UK for a Maiden Stone Festival, which is the Ramblin' Man Festival. We play that and do some touring in the UK, and then we're back here again. Our plan is to probably release another record in October. So we're starting to we're getting ready to launch a record in March, but we're also already writing the next record. So I grew up, my dad owned automotive stores, and at 13 I was changing tires and brakes, and I worked in the factory for a few years and did welding, and I know what physical labor is about. Where I grew up, we baled hay, I did all that. And so the fact that I get to play guitar for a living and go around the world, I don't ever take that for granted. And so there's times, you get exhausted. I'll tell you what or what's been the hardest on us is flying, especially these last couple years since the lockdown nonsense. Flying overseas, is what was a 12, 15-hour flight a lot of times turns into 23 hours of travel, and it takes you a couple days to get situated once you get over there because you lost a day of sleep. So that can be exhausting, but if I don't know where I'm at, it's because I can't pronounce it. If I'm in Belgium and I can't pronounce, there's a couple places we played in Belgium or Germany.
Well, you know what country you're in. You just can't pronounce the name of the city you're in. I get that.
And my degree is in history, and my granddad both told me when I told him I was going to pursue music. I said, "We'll get you a degree to fall back on." So I was working on my master's in history and was getting close to having that done when my other band first got its first record deal.
That's interesting.
So when we're traveling, I'm always thinking about where I'm, especially in Europe, but in the States too. If I'm in Dallas, I want to see historical things. If I'm in Houston, I want to see historical things. So when we're in Europe, especially, I take time to see the sights. See, our tour manager gets pissed off at me because he's like, "It's another castle, man. You've seen castles before, but
it's not the same.
We don't have we don't have those in the States."
It's kind of like a vacation for you in a way, because you get to see stuff that you learned about in a book and studied, and there it is.
It doesn't ever. I don't ever forget how lucky I am to do that, because it's things and places that I dreamt about seeing.
You're in a situation like, I get paid to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, and not only I get people love what I do, I love what I do. Then I get to go on vacation while I'm here, and traveling and meeting people from different countries is always fun too.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story about Joe. I had no dealings with him prior to 2019. I knew who he was, and I bought a couple of the records, whatever else. And I got our record had just came out, the Waze record. So it's 2019, and I woke up one morning, I looked at my phone, and I had like 50 texts. And I thought, well, my mother's passed away, or there's another 9/11. I was like, must be something going on. And it was all my friends, and they were like, get on Bonamassa's Instagram. And I was like, okay. Well, I got on there, and Joe had posted our album cover, and the caption said, "This is my greatest musical discovery of 2019."
How cool is that,
So
brother?
it was just such a sweet thing to do. It helped us immensely. The guys at Fender called me, you know, and want to know what kind of guitars I was playing. It did a lot of things. And then I've written a couple songs with Joe. We've become friends. When I'm buying a vintage guitar, he's like an encyclopedia. I text him and say, "Hey, what do we got here?" And then he just took us to Greece.
Were you on that gig?
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Walter Trout, we were on that cruise in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, Walter's a great guy. What a nice guy.
He is, man, and just an amazing artist. He was fantastic. And we'll be down in Texas in August. Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. If we're anywhere close, please message us.
Oh, no. I'll message you. I'll get a hold. I always get a hold of John, whatever, and talk to him and say, yeah, because if you're going to be, I want to come by and see you.
Yeah, would love to have you out.
Out of the people I've interviewed, I've only met 2 in person. The rest of them I haven't had a chance to. Well, they haven't been through.
We'd love to have you out, and I'll pick your brain about Dallas when I'm out there. So.
Oh, yeah, you got it. All right, you take care. Have a good evening.
All right, buddy. You too.
Thanks.
Ready when you are. Remember times when every day was so dark and cold, like a winter that lasts forever, deep within my soul. Then one day the curtains came up and the storyline had changed. The tribulations and sorrow anyway. And you are like the sun after the rain. And you are like the joy that erases the pain. And I remember every day, and it always seemed the same. Trying to find a ray of hope that something's gonna change. Then one day I saw your smile, the clouds parted above. I traded all my sorrow for your love. And you are like the sunshine after the rain. And you are like the joy that erases the pain.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Trout Show. Thanks for watching or listening. A special thanks to Chris Tapp from the Cold Stairs for coming on and talking about his band and all his music. I hope you get out there and listen to him and watch him. For more information about the Cold Stairs, visit their website at thecoldstairs.com. TheColdStares.com. And you know me, I'm the Trout. For more information about the Trout Show and follow us on our podcast or more videos, visit our website at thetroutshow.com. That's thetroutshow.com. And so next time, people, you know what I say. It's only rock and roll, but we love it. See ya.
Lord, I'm not one to swing that rope. Lord, I'm not one to swing that rope. I got sins that weigh on me like a heavy